So welcome everyone to the SSCA Content Creators Summit. As always, this summit is about members who have written books, composed music, done artwork, even podcasts or videos, or any interesting content. I'm Jackie from Sailing Vessel Sloepmouche, your host.
Today's guests, Almuth and Eddie, are SSCA Circumnavigators, and you may have already seen their video clip on SSCA YouTube channel about the circumnavigation. Almuth is not only a sketch artist, but also the author of a new book, written in German and now translated in English.
The first question is, what gave you the idea to write a book?
Well, we wrote reports from the beginning of our sailing. And now and then, after some years, we showed these reports to other sailors, and they were amazed and asked, why don't you make a book out of it? And as you know, steady drop makes the stone hollow. So finally, I thought that's a good idea. I could start with it.
All right. When did you finally decide to go ahead and write it?
When Almuth started to think, I want to write the book, I said, no, this will mean a tremendous amount of work, and I will keep out of it. But nevertheless, she decided to do it.
And I just started to make copies of our reports because we didn't have them on paper. And then I had to take out the drawings, and then I started to rewrite everything in the form how I tell, and what happened to me and what I was feeling.
Normally books are illustrated with photographs, but your book is illustrated with your sketches and drawings. So that makes it even more interesting and even, a piece of artwork as well. So tell us what inspired your sketching.
Well, when we started sailing, that was 1998, one didn't have these cameras like today. Even electronical cameras were not available, and photographing was not only expensive, it was very critical to keep films so that they didn't change color. So we had to keep them in the fridge so that the film didn't deteriorate. So I made it easy. I made some sketches, and when we wrote reports regularly, these sketches which I had in my diary, I put also into the reports. And so it was a kind of collection which appeared in my diary normally. Yes, and so I thought this is a good idea. I have nearly no photos, so the best would be to put the sketches into the book.
With each drawing, Almuth tried to
explain a situation.
Yes, explain a certain situation which you can do much better with a photo than with a drawing than with a photo.
Yeah, that's
because
correct.
You can exaggerate what you want to show.
Did you have some help from a professional to read over your manuscript?
And finally, when I thought, now it's ready for a book, I thought I'm not a writer, so I have to ask for a lecturer. And after long searching, I found a very nice lady. She helped me very much. She asked me very friendly, how do you feel and what did you feel, and explain more about your feeling, because I thought I have written all in the book, but it was not enough, so that the reader would have been bored after a while. So she helped me for the feelings and many things more.
When did Eddie decide to get involved?
As Eddie realized that it is serious with my thoughts about the book, so he started to help me immense. He always, I had to read what I have written and how I have written, and he listened very, very careful and had very good ideas, to help me. Very good.
Here you are, and you have accomplished writing a book. Tell us the title.
The original title of the book was
Zeit für zeitlose Turns, Nomaden der Meere.
And this title cannot be translated straightforward into English.
And now it's in English, Voyage Beyond Time, Adventures of Two Seafaring Nomads.
All right. Very good. So that tells us that you have two versions of the book. You have the original book in German, and then you now have an English version of the book. And we'll talk about that and those adventures getting the English version a little bit later. Why did you pick the subtitle Nomads of the Sea?
One day we sailed to Morocco and hired a car and were driving around. And then we talked to a nomad and told about our sailing, about our adventures. And he made the remark, you are like nomads of the sea. And we liked this title so very much. So I thought this is a good second title for the book.
Yes, okay, yeah, that's very appropriate that an actual nomad of the land would identify you also as a comrade nomad, but on the sea. All right, very, very interesting. Okay, so now we're going to talk about getting your book published. From your stories about finding a publisher, finally for your book, it sounds like you could write a whole book about the publishing adventure. So, tell us briefly about your experience with this publisher, or finding a publisher.
we contacted many editors, and some of them had a look at our information, but most of them didn't even look at it, and some of them did not even answer. With the time, we found out that you will only find a publisher when you are known, when you are well known. In other words, you have to have blogs, you have to be in the internet, you have to have followers. Or if you are well established and your articles, I'm talking about scientific articles or so, or a real literature, if you are known through magazines, newspapers, that will help, of course, as well. But if you're totally unknown, you have a very, very hard job. So finally, because Almuth had, and myself, we have spent so many hours working on that book, many hours. Almuth started to get desperate, and we found Novum, that is an editor in Germany and Austria, and that is a publisher who doesn't take any risk whatsoever. You pay for publishing your book. In other words, comparing with another hobby of us, I always said publishing a book is much more expensive than gliding.
Tell us a little bit about how you're interested in that sport.
Well, I do not know where to start.
When we were in New Zealand, Tauranga, and one Saturday morning, and I said, why don't you turn to the right? Don't you see those gliders over there?
And that was to the airstrip. There were planes staying without motor, that are gliders. So Eddie introduced me to the gentleman who stood there, and I was astonished that he knew the names. So then I said hello to everybody, and then Eddie walked away, and I was looking after him. What is he doing? And he stepped into a glider, into a plane without motor. Another man, an instructor behind him, and then he hooked on a rope which was connected to a tow plane, and this tow plane took them up. into the air. And so I was following and was astonished what's going on. And there was a Peter, he asked me, do you want to have a glider flight? And then I thought about the money, I could not afford that. And then he said, there is another Peter, he's going up in a two-seater, and you can fly with him and go with him. So then the decision was found. I went with him. I was strapped in, and also we took off. And after a while, he made some turns, and he landed again. And in the evening, Eddie asked me, do you want to learn gliding? And then I thought, what shall I do up in the air? But if I say no, I would never find out if I would be a good pilot. So I said yes, and I decided to learn gliding.
How easy was the publishing process?
First of all, the book came out in German. And of course, we corrected and pages after pages, and we corrected those. And we gave the okay when we were in Morocco. And we also made the flyer while we were in Morocco, and that flyer in German was printed in Morocco. And when we came back on Lanzarote, that is in Canary Islands, somebody showed us a picture of their parents, well, on internet, of course, and they hold a copy of the book. The book had already been sold, and we haven't even seen a copy so far. We just gave the okay, and then it went out. And in the same program, they told us at the beginning that they selected the book for a trial with a European translation program, and they would translate it to English if we would agree. And then we said, of course, yes. Had to find a new title, we had to do one or two things, and then it was translated. And we got the English copy.
And how did that go?
You can't imagine. The book was absolutely unreadable. Absolutely unreadable. Our not only words, but I give just two examples which come into my mind now. Our cabin, or saloon, as you call it, our little saloon or cabin, was reduced in the e-books, in the English e-book, to a cubicle. As far as I remember, a cubicle is a place where you deposit your brooms and cleaning material. And another translation, which is even more funny, I can't keep everything in my head. On every page we found things like that. But I give you the one. Almuth had to put on her harness to relieve me in the cockpit because I was completely soaked and wet. Translation, Almuth put on her life belt to unbuckle Eddie in the cockpit. We had to go through the whole book, every page. We had to rewrite whole passages, and finally it came out. Well, it came out twice or three times even, because we corrected things which they did not correct. But the final version, we were told by English people, of course the translation is okay, but we can hear the way you talk just if you were sitting together without telling one of your stories.
Oh, that's nice. So finally, in the end, it came out very well in English, and people feel like you're just telling them the story yourself. Despite all the setbacks, the trials, and tribulations of getting a book published and written and published and even translated into a second language, you are now the proud author, or Almuth is mainly the proud author of a book in 2 languages. So, do you have any other stories about people that have read the book and what reactions you got from them?
I would like to remark something in addition, because in writing the book, Eddie also, it was Eddie's work. There are squares with historical parts. We visited anchorages where Columbus anchored, or Nelson anchored, or famous seafarers, and he wrote about those, and these historical parts are in cubes and lined out, and that is Eddie's work.
Most interesting remark we heard, it's a pity that it does not continue.
Like in the movies, that gives you, what do they call, an opportunity for a sequel. But you may, after what you've gone through, you may tear your hair out and say, okay, that's enough. We'll let people stay in suspense for the next book.
Well, 2 days ago, we were invited to go to Zurich, to the cruising club Switzerland of the section Zurich, and Almuth read from her book, not the passages, or not chapters or so, just small passages. At the beginning, I gave just a small idea of what kind of boat we have, because we were all boaters, of course. And she wrote a few passages, maybe an hour or 3/4 of an hour. And the result was absolutely amazing. People were absolutely quiet. From time to time, they had to laugh or smile, and then they were quiet again. And at last, they were absolutely very, very happy.
Yes, they came to me and shook hands and wanted to hug me and wanted to buy a book for sure. Yes.
All right, that's great, that's great. Well, maybe if you ever have an opportunity to come to an SSCA when they're at the boat show, and you can come to the booth and sign autographed books, that would be great too. I'm sure the reception would also be very nice.
Books not only about sailing, putting up sails and taking down sails, etc. It's communication with local people. And so in the South Pacific, we have a lot of different stories.
Can you tell us a few stories in your book to whet our appetite?
So in the beginning, what was quite funny, but what I did not like at all, we had to get used to each other. And finally, we set sail the first time. And I wrote in the book, we were going out to sea. For me, the wide sea, it was the it was endless, the water. And then Eddie asked me to steer. So, and I started the best, he said on the compass, which degrees I should start and steer. So I did very good and turned the wheel to the right and to the left, enthusiastic, just to do it right. And finally, after a while, he said, I didn't ask you to write your signature on the sea. So this I didn't like very much.
All right, your enthusiastic helming technique.
Yes.
Do you like to tell us another story?
My first storm, that was, we sailed through the Strait of Messina and wanted to anchor in front of Scilla, a little village, very beautiful on a mount. And then there came on the radio the message, gale warning 7 to 8. I didn't know what was gale, so I was sitting there and watching Eddie, what is he doing? He disappeared, and after a while he came back and had a plaster in his hand and put a plaster behind my ear. You know what that means. And then I thought, why are you so caring for me suddenly? Because Eddie was very strict and not very friendly with me. And then he explained me that it was a strong storm which is coming from the west.
Storm.
Not a strong. Well,
wind.
for me it's still a storm, a strong wind. Okay, 7 to 8, and the wind is blowing against the country into the bay, so we have to disappear. Otherwise, it doesn't come out good for us and for the boat. It would be blown ashore, and then that would not be so comfortable. So we did not anchor. We sailed out, and after many hours, Eddie even started to cook. In this weather, I would have been happy with dry bread, but no, Eddie cooked a real meal, wonderful and delicious. And it was nearly midnight when Eddie said, "Now we can go to sleep." So we hove to and went to sleep. And I could not sleep because the boat was moving so irregularly, and I had to put cushions beside my head to the right and to the left, and finally I fell asleep. And then some hours later, at 3 o'clock about, Eddie woke me up again and said, "Now we can set sail again." No, I wanted to sleep, and now I was still tired. No, I had to get up. So we brought the boat on course again and continued sailing. And within the next hours, the sea became calmer, and I enjoyed sailing. And in the late afternoon, with the last light, we reached Lipari, a tiny little island in the Med, about north of Sicily. And now I was happy to reach an island and to make fast in a harbor and could have a good sleep.
Yeah, I can imagine that when you're not very experienced that you're on the first storm. Yeah, I mean, even the first strong wind warning is a storm in our view, right? When we first get out there.
Now I would think different. And another very nice story is Raroya is in the South Pacific, the Tuamotu Islands. We anchored in one of the atolls in front of Raroya, a little island. And we went ashore and walked around a little bit. And at the end of this path, there was a hut, and some children greeted us, "Bonjour," and so we answered, "Bonjour," what should we say? And there were many blankets lying on the terrace. And this started to move, and I thought, what's that? It was so not naturally, like a fantasy figure would peel out of the blankets. It was a woman, and she invited us and said, "Come in, have a drink." And she offered us something to drink. And finally there came a friendship when we visited her for a meal. As a present, she gave us black pearls, and Eddie asked the husband if he had known Tor Heyerdahl and the Kontiki, and if he knows where this Kontiki landed finally and stranded. And yes, he knew exactly. He explained he saw old tins, and then they sailed against the wind and found the crew of the Kontiki and the stranded boat. So then Eddie asked him, could you bring us to this island? "Yes, for sure," he said. And through all the corals, many corals, he navigated us to this island, and we had, a wonderful time.
Ah, that is a very interesting story, to see where the Kontiki stranded in the Tuamotus.
And he had taken his grandson with him, and we slept on our boat, had a meal, and then went to sleep. And the next morning we visited this island, and there was nothing, only sand and some palm trees. And then he said, "I show you more." And then it was low tide, so we could walk along the corals and the sand. And then he warned us, there is a moraine, don't go too close. And then he collected some snails, and gave me 3 into the hand. And I thought, big ones, I tell you, big ones. And I didn't know what to do with it, so I held them. And after a while, the animals inside, they moved, and they touched my hand, and I was afraid. So finally he took it off again, and then he banged them to each other and damaged the houses, cleaned the animal inside, which was inside, took it out, and the grandson was waiting there, grabbed it and started to eat this snake. Then he, "Do you want to taste it?" No, I like to taste very, very much, but that one I did not taste. Eddie tasted it. Well, and in the afternoon we sailed back, and then he asked, "May I take the steer and make steer back, drive the boat back?" And yes, he was very proud, steering back our boat. Yes.
He was certainly proud to steer a big boat like yours. But go ahead, we like to hear one last story.
We reached the Marquesas Islands. We went ashore, and always where we were ashore, meeting people, we asked them, where can we buy vegetables or fruit? And so we met Pierre. He had a garden. He said, "Come next day, come to us and have a meal with us." So next day we came, we brought a bottle of wine, and his sister was there, gave me a bracelet and decorated me with flowers and shells, and very wonderful. And then we sat down on the terrace. There were no chairs. There was former cables were rolled up, and such a wooden thing was there where we could sit. And he had prepared the meal and served it, and everyone became a plate, and we got spoons, and they preferred to eat with the fingers. And then I just wanted to eat. There came a wild boar across on the terrace, so I wanted to throw everything away and run away. And in that moment he realized that I was afraid. And then he said, "No, don't worry. It is used. It's living with us. It's not a wild boar. It only looks very wild." So I could relax and enjoy the meal.
Be a cute one, the drawing of you being startled and the wild boar. So I'm sure after this interview there will be people that will be interested to learn the rest of the stories. The last question, and the most important one, is for people to know how they can get a copy of your book. Either the German version or the English version.
So one just has to, the German version, one just gives in the German title, Zeit für zeitlose Töns, and it shows up bookshops and Amazon, everything where you can order the book.
The English version, you just enter that the title, the English title, in the internet, and it should be easy. We have never tried it. It should be very easy to get it in the States in any case.
Thank you, Almuth and Eddie, for joining us today to not only tell us about your new book, but also to share your experience publishing a first book, but also to have it translated into a foreign language. Jackie and I are certainly looking forward to read your new book soon.
If you know a sailing, cruising content creator, or you yourself are one, don't hesitate to contact us to schedule an interview.